All right. So we'll start with questions from the homeworks. Does anybody got them? Mackenzie.
Can you do the number 13?
Sure. Number 13. Okie doke. So help me out with this, Mackenzie. What did you try to do first? Excellent. So if we subtract 22 from both sides, it becomes negative 20. And then what did you do? Very good. So that becomes negative 40. Perfect. Then what did you do? Great. So we square root of both sides. So we get plus or minus square root negative 40. Okay. And then what? Okay. So then you started fooling with that stuff. Okay. So let's do that then. So first things first. Negative 40 I can think about as negative 1 times 4 times 10, right? So the square root of negative 40 is the square root of negative 1 times the square root of 4 times the square root of 10. Square root of negative 1 is I, square root of 4 is 2, and square root of 10 we can't do anything with. So we have plus or minus 2i square root 10. Are you happy there? Okay. And then our last step would just to be subtract that I over, or that 8 over. And that's as good as you can do. Does that feel okay? Sure. So here we're asked to use the quadratic formula. So my answer, or my value for A, B, and C. So x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2 times a. So 6 squared is 36. 4 times 1 times 1 is 4. 36 minus 4 is 32. And the square root of 32 I can think of as 16 times 2, right? So the square root of 32 is the square root of 16 times the square root of 2. And the square root of 16 is just 4. So if you think of this as two fractions, negative 6 over 2 becomes negative 3, or minus, and then 4 root 2 over 2 becomes 2 root 2. And that's our best that we can do. Sure thing, Mackenzie. Is that, you're good though?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Amy? Certainly. Okay, so first things first, I forgot to put in the equals 0. It's kind of impossible to solve something if it doesn't equal anything. So that's my fault there. Amy, how did you try to do number 9? Did you try to factor this, or did you try to use the quadratic formula, or did you try to do something different? Okay, so that's what I'll do then, so that it matches up with your work. Sound good? Okay. So my values for A is 15, B is 1, and C is negative 2. You good there? Okay, So x equals -1 plus or minus square root of 1 squared minus 4 times 15 times -2 all over 2 times 15. So 4 times 15 is 60 times -2 is -120. 1 minus a -120 becomes 121. Okay, there. The square root of 121 is a perfect square. So that just becomes 11. So -1 plus 11 becomes 10 over 30, or just 1/3. And -1 minus 11 becomes -12 over 30, or -2/5. So those are our two answers. Did I lose you? Most of them, yes. It's possible to get one answer. Remember when we talked about one of the, oh, we're doing that today. Sorry. So there is situations where you could get one answer, although they're pretty rare in comparison. I'm looking here to see if we have one on here that sticks out. I think maybe everything on this sheet is a two-answer situation. Nothing stands out as obvious to me as a one answer. Of course. Oh, Luke.
It's not a perfect square, but you can see the answer is that.
Yeah, so you'd end up with, if it was, you'd end up with something like we had over here for Mackenzie's question, where you'll leave the square root in there. Once you've simplified it the best you could. Okay with that? Okay. Last call on questions from these two. Maya? 10 on which homework? 5. Okay. And then how did you go about trying to do number 10? Did you try to factor or use the quadratic formula? Okay, I would have factored this one because it's going to be much, much easier. Because this one is one there we have a shortcut to do. So I'm going to just show you how we could do this by factoring. And then if you want, we can go back and do the quadratic formula. But I think you'll be pretty happy with what we did. So I noticed that 81 is 9 squared and 100 is 10 squared, right? You agree with that? Oh, I'm looking at the wrong problem. Oh, okay. All right, so quadratic formula it is. So I have negative of -3 plus or minus square root -3 squared minus 4 times c all over 2 times a. So negative of a negative is a positive. -3 squared is positive 9. And then 4 times 4 is 16 times -10 is a negative 160. But we're subtracting, so 9 minus a negative 160 becomes positive 169 all over 12. The square root is 169. That's a perfect square. That's actually just 13. So 3 plus 13 is 16 over 12. And then 3 minus 13 is -10, and both of those reduce a little. So that becomes 4/3, and that one becomes -5/6. Okay? If you type this into your calculator and you got the wrong result, most likely the issue was you typed it in as -3 squared. Your calculator is going to give you that as -9. You need to make sure that you're putting parentheses around it in your calculator so you get a +9. So that's a big one for you guys, because everybody gets lazy and drops those parentheses, and they really need to be there. Okay? Amy? Okay, so you subtract 10 from both sides because it has to equal 0. This is a quick factor, so the things that multiply to give us 25 and add to give us 10 are 5 and 5. And so we really just get the same solution twice. You can call that one solution or two solutions depending on the context. Okay? Luke?
Is it possible to factor in?
Yes. Yeah, in fact, I think everything on homework 5 was still factorable. Mackenzie?
For number 7, is it okay if we add the x squared to the other side and set it 0?
Yeah, that's how you should do it.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So you'll just get -3 and -2 after you factor and all that jazz, right? Yep, that's perfectly correct. And that's easily the fastest way of going about doing it. Okay. All right, so some other things that the quadratic formula can tell us. So the quadratic formula, -b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, right? That's the quadratic formula. We all remember that. We just talked about it the other day. The piece that we're going to be using here is this piece, the b squared minus 4ac. We refer to that piece as the discriminant. And we can use the discriminant to tell us a couple of things. So the discriminant can tell us the number of solutions and type of solutions to a quadratic equation. So QE is just me abbreviating quadratic equation. So there's 3 situations, whether that discriminant is positive, 0, or negative. So if the discriminant is positive, I'm going to get 2 real solutions. Doesn't really tell me what those 2 solutions are going to be, but I know there's going to be 2 of them, and I know they're going to be real numbers, not imaginary. If the discriminant is equal to 0, we're going to say 1 real solution. And this is the situation that that Amy asked about here in the homework, where we got -5 as an answer twice. We're going to count that as 1 solution right now. Later on, when we talk more about polynomials, we'll actually give that a special name and count it a special way. But for right now, we'll just call that 1 solution, since getting the same answer twice, there's really only 1 number, right? And the last situation, if the discriminant is negative, we're just going to be getting 2 imaginary solutions. So let's say we have x squared plus 4x plus 6 equal to 0. So the a here is 1, the b here is 2, and the c here is 6. My discriminant is going to be 16 minus 4 times 1 times 6, so that's 24. So I get negative 8. And since that's negative, I know I'm getting 2 imaginary solutions out of this thing if I were to choose to solve it. Sometimes just knowing what the solutions are going to look like is enough. Everybody okay here with this idea? So just like 3 little criterion and a little tiny calculation to figure out which one of the 3 you're using. Okay? No big deal there. Now that, not terribly useful, right? I mean, it's nice, but like, it's not a whole lot more work to just use the full quadratic formula and get the actual answers. You know what I mean? The other way we can use the discriminant is actually quite useful and quite valuable. So we say that a quadratic is factorable if and only if its discriminant is equal to a perfect square. So what's an example of a perfect square? I hear people mumbling, but I can't actually hear them. 9, excellent. 9's a perfect square because it's 3 squared. What's another one? 25. 16, excellent. What? 4, perfect. Seems like you got it. Question for you. Is negative 4 a perfect square? No. Perfect squares must be positive, because you have to have 2 real numbers that multiply, or that you can square to get that, right? If you allowed for imaginaries, then sure, I guess negative 4 would be okay, but we're not. Negatives don't count. Everybody's okay with that? So what's more valuable is, say we're trying to factor something, and we had this problem that we had before. And you could imagine these numbers could get, the coefficients could be quite large, right? We've had some factoring problems where these coefficients was not terribly easy to find the 2 numbers that multiply and add. And sometimes you wonder if there's even 2 numbers that do that, right? Well, we no longer have to wonder. So if you start to get the inkling that something isn't factorable, you can do that test right away and tell immediately that it's not factorable. Which is actually quite nice, right? Before we had to like really be quite careful before we declared something was not factorable and kind of check every possibility, or at least do something clever about like how many possibilities we needed to check. Here all we have to do is like plug some numbers into a formula and immediately we know whether it's factorable or not. Now it doesn't help you find the 2 numbers if it's factorable, but at least you know that like, hey, keep on looking, they gotta be there. You know what I mean? So that's actually quite useful. Everybody's okay with that? Wonderful. Okay, that's all for the new stuff. Okay. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to program our graphing calculator to perform the quadratic formula for us. Cool. So what does that mean? Yeah, so to be able to do the quadratic formula, what pieces of information does the calculator need? Needs to know what A, B, and C are, right? And then it needs to do the quadratic formula, store that answer somewhere, and then display that answer when it's finished. Everybody okay with that plan? That's essentially what our program we're going to write is going to do. So if you have your graphing calculator with you, please follow along and do this now. If you don't have your graphing calculator with you, this is something that you'll definitely want to do. The PowerPoint that I'm using right now is available on PowerSchool. If you go to the resources tab of PowerSchool, you can find this PowerPoint. And we're recording the lesson, so if you go and look at the chapter, you'll see this lesson and you can watch the description again to do it in like real time with me right now. But this is something that you'll be able to use on a test. You'll definitely want to have, and you'll want to have it on the calculator that you're going to use for the test. So you want it on your calculator, not your buddy's or whatever. Okay? All right. So power your calculator on, and you're going to begin by pressing the program button, which is located right there, kind of in the middle of the calculator. Once you've pressed the program button, you'll use the arrows to move to tab over so that you're on the new tab, and your screen should look like mine does. Everybody got there? Cool. Go ahead and press enter, and you're going to type in a name for your program. I'm going to call mine Quad, but you can call yours whatever you want, whether it's Rufus or Solvinator or Billie Jean. I think one of my classes called theirs Dr. Phil. I think it must be because Dr. Phil solves all their problems for them. I don't know. So if you look in green above the numbers, you'll see the letters, right? I think right now when we did this, the calculator automatically alpha locks it, so you can just press the button for the letter and the letter will show up. You don't have to do anything extra. So just type in whatever name you want to give it. But don't spend too much time thinking of a clever name because it doesn't really matter that much. Okay. Now that you've picked a name, go ahead and press enter. When you do that, your screen should now look like this, where they display the program name at top, and you should have a colon and your cursor down below it, right? The first thing we're going to do is we're going to have the program clear the screen on our calculator so that when it displays our answer, it does so in like an attractive way. So it's not just like googly-gocky on the screen. So to do that, we're going to press the program button again. That's going to open the CTL menu that looks like this. If you press the right arrow and move to the IO menu, the command we want is the clear home command. So move your cursor down and select the clear home command. Press enter and it'll put the clear home command into your program, and then press enter again to move to the next line. So your cursor should now be below the clear home command. Is everybody okay with that? So the next thing we've done now that we've cleared the screen is we want to be able to give the calculator the values for A, B, and C, right? So the command that we're going to use there is called the prompt command. So to find the prompt command, we're going to press that program button again, move over to the IO menu, and you'll see command 2 is prompt. And after we select the command prompt, we're going to type the letter A. To type the letter A, you're going to have to press the alpha button first, and then the button with the little green A above it. I think that's the math button. Once you've done that, press enter and move to the next line. You'll then repeat that same process with prompt B and prompt C. So the same set of steps there. If anybody gets stuck, holler at me and let me know, but I'll give you a minute to kind of do that. And those of you at home, are you doing okay? I can't hear you because you're muted if you're trying to say anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. Just checking. Anybody still typing? Okay. The alphabetical order is helpful there, right?
It really is.
Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to type in the quadratic formula. But remember, the quadratic formula has that plus or minus in it. So we're going to have to do this in two separate lines, once with the plus and then another line with the minus. So you're going to type in exactly what you see written here with all the same parentheses, all the same operation marks. Make sure that you're using the negative sign here on the B, but the subtraction symbol there next to the 4AC. That's a common mistake I see students make. And then hold on a second. To get this little arrow, see the arrow at the end? To get that arrow, you're going to press the STO button down at the bottom of your calculator, right above the on button there. I have an arrow pointing to it. So that arrow is going to store that answer into the variable slot D on your calculator. Again, make sure you get that double parenthesis after the C. Notice that mine is going on 2 lines, but there's not a new colon on that second line, right? That's really just one line of text that just has wrapped. Some of you that have the newer calculators get more pixels, have more columns that they can put a symbol in. So you might be able to do that all on one line. That's okay. Once you've got that, press enter, move to the next line. Luke. STO button there at the bottom. Look at the PowerPoint. I'm pointing to it. Yes.
How do you put the square root?
So that's second, and then the x squared button there. Guess what we're going to do after this? You're going to do the exact same thing, except this time, instead of a plus sign here, you're going to have a minus sign. And instead of the variable D, you're going to use the variable E. So it's almost the exact same thing. Before you leave this or finish this part, double check to make sure you have all the parentheses in the right places. Don't skip any parentheses. That's also a common mistake I see students make, is they skip one of the parentheses in here. That's totally a Mr. Kulik kind of mistake. But just make sure that your formula looks exactly the same as the one that I typed in. Okay, you need all the same symbols in all the same order. If you have questions, holler at me. I'll be happy to answer. And we'll do some checking here at the end to make sure that our quadratic formula is operating correctly. Amy?
Is there a way that I can add a space in the first one? I thought that the plus sign and that's I didn't see.
Yes. So if you move your cursor to where you want it, to insert your symbol, and you press second and the delete button, you can now insert one symbol there without overwriting anything. So then you can move back to wherever you were and finish up with whatever you're typing. Did that work?
Yep.
You're welcome. Super.
Mr. Kulik?
Yes.
When I'm trying to do like B to the second,
Mhm.
it like has, how do you make it actually have the number on the top instead of doing like the arrow too?
If you do that caret symbol too, that is fine, Alyssa.
Okay.
That's
All
fine.
right, perfect.
Yeah, it's fine leaving it that way. If you use the x squared button on your calculator, it'll make just the squared up there. But the
Okay.
caret too means the same thing. That's fine.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Are we still working? Is that yeses or nos? Is there anyone still working? Let me ask that question. Okay, so we can still hold on for a minute. It's not a rush. I just couldn't tell if people were still working or not. Edmund.
Sorry, I was a little behind. I was still typing in the quadratic.
That's okay.
What do we do after that again? After the quadratic?
So you're just typing in exactly what I have on the screen.
Once again?
Yep.
Got it.
Except notice that there's a little difference. So there's a minus where the plus was, and the letter at the end is an E instead of a D. But it's almost everything else is identical. Ooh. Who's ready for the weekend?
I'm so ready. I was only here for 3 days.
Yeah. I was here for all the days this week, and I'm ready to.
We need a day off.
You had a day off. And then not county conferences, we had a day off. Like, why do public schools get a mental health day every Wednesday? Like, why do we only have that?
I don't know. I would suggest having your parents call the administration and ask that same question. You asking it to me does no good.
True.
Nobody listens to me. I can't do anything. I'm not the person that can make that call. The administration can make that call, and they'll probably listen to your parents since they're the ones cutting the check to the school.
Yeah, but like the problem is it's the people who are paying. Like the people are paying for us to be here. So that's probably why we don't have days off. Because like they're paying for us to be here.
I mean, if that's what they want. I mean, they're the customer, so to speak.
It's not what I want. But
Well, I mean, like, convince your parents that, like, hey, like, you know, and have them make a phone call. Like, that's how you get change to happen. You know? I can't make the call.
I think we should put you in authority.
Just put me in charge of it. I don't want to be in charge. All right, are we ready to move forward? Okay, so make sure that you're on a fresh line. So you should be on the line below whatever that last equation is. And what we're going to do now is have the calculator display the value for D and E. To do that, we have to tell the calculator what row on our screen we want it to display on and what column we want it to start in. So we're going to pick like basically the bottom of our screen in the first column, right? So just going to, the last 2 lines of our calculator is going to have the answer. So to do that, we're going to press the program button again, move over to the IO menu, but this time pick the output command. And you guys will type output, comma 6, comma 1, comma D. To get the comma, that's right above the number 7. And then you'll just do that another time with 7, comma 1, comma E.
How do you get that output part?
So you press program and then move over to the IO tab. And I think output is command 6.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody still typing this stuff?
Yeah, I'm almost done.
Okay.
Mr. Kulik, where's the comma?
It's right above the number 7.
Okay.
No problem. Okay. The last thing we need to do is tell the calculator that we're done with the program, right? We've done everything we needed. We plugged in the values for A, B, and C. We calculated the quadratic formula. We displayed that answer. So now the program's over. So we need the stop command. So if you press the program button, under the CTL tab down at the very bottom, you'll find the stop command. Select that. So that should be the last line of your program is just stop. You have stop as the last line. You can press second and mode to return to the home screen. Maya. Delete, which is like right next to the second button. But I think a blank line at the end I don't think will make any difference either way. But I think that'll do it. Okay, Edmund.
So for one of my things, I don't have the colon. Will it still work? I don't know how that happened.
Come show me what you mean.
I just don't have a colon for one.
Yes, no, that's a big deal.
Oh,
So we'll just press second, insert, enter
gotcha.
to get it on the same line. And you are missing a set of parentheses. So since I see that right now, let's take care of that. Insert
Oh, sorry.
there. That, you typed a negative sign instead of a subtraction symbol. I'll fix that while I'm at it. You're welcome. Here you have an extra B, which is for AC, not ABC. I'll get it all cleaned up there. All right, that looks better. Okay, so everybody, if you haven't pressed second and mode yet to exit to the main screen of your calculator, go ahead and do that. So second and mode to get out of the program editor and move to the main screen of your calculator. Okay. So let's do a couple of little tests here to try our program out to make sure it works. So the first test we're going to do of x squared plus 5x plus 6. So to run your program, you're going to press the program button. Under the EXEC tab, that's the first one, you'll just select the name of your program by pressing enter. And then press enter again. At that point, it should be saying A equals question mark. Just type in the value for A for this problem and press enter and repeat the value for B and C. And at the end, it should output in some order -2 and -3. I forget which one's going to output first. If that didn't happen, come see me, or if you get an error in the process, come see me and we'll figure it out.
I got -3, -3.
Okay.
So I must have.
Yeah, so the issue there is Alyssa that I'm talking to?
Yep.
Okay, so if you look at the quad program, my suspicion is that these are both the same symbol instead of one being addition, the other being subtraction.
Yep.
So if you go to the program to the edit tab, you can go in and change that. But that is my suspicion as to what the issue is without being able to actually physically look at your calculator, Alyssa.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Everybody else?
-2, -2.
Okay, so I'm guessing the same issue there, Jack.
I just checked, and they're both. It's plus and minus. It's not.
Okay, so what about the letters here at the end? Are they different? Are they D and E, or are they both the same letter?
Yeah, they're D and E.
How about on the output? Are they?
Oh, yeah, I see it. I found it.
Okay, so it was the same letter twice somewhere?
Yeah, in the output.
Okay, perfect. Yep. Good. People in class, did anybody have an issue with their program? Yeah. Okay, So your issue is going to be that you're missing the second set of parentheses right here on that line. So after the square root closes, you need another parenthesis closing the whole numerator. And you know how to get back into, okay, perfect. Anyone else have an issue? Okay. Oh, it's because you used the negative sign here instead of the subtraction symbol.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That was me guessing as to what the issue was. That could have also been one. Would not have been my first guess, but when you look at it, you can see it. When you know what you're looking for, right? Like you're doing this the first time. This is like the 12th year I've done this, so, you know. Paul? Sure. All right, next test. Let's try doing this one. Who got an error? Everybody probably did, just about, right? What does the error say? What does that mean? Means it has an imaginary solution. But guess what? Calculator can still do it. Let's just change our mode so that we're in a mode that can display an imaginary answer. So go ahead and quit out of your error message if you haven't done that yet. Pick the quit option.
I don't know, it won't let me leave.
Are you pressing enter? No, you have to, where the error says quit or go to, you have to pick the option that says quit by pressing enter. Okay. All right, so press the mode button. In the mode screen, about halfway down in the middle, it said you should see the word real highlighted. Do you guys see that? Right next to that, you should see A plus BI. Move your cursor down so it's on the A plus BI, and then press enter so that the real is no longer highlighted and A plus BI is highlighted. Once you've done that, second and mode to exit out of that menu and try to redo solving that problem with your quadratic formula or your quadratic program. When you do that, well, what is this number, really? Yeah, does anybody recognize the specific square root it is? It is the square root of 2. So, on the test, depending on the instructions, rounded answer could be appropriate there. Or you may need to actually use this formula, like pen and pencil, so that you get the actual value for that square root there. Depending on what my directions ask for, if I ask for an exact answer or a rounded answer. Mackenzie?
So if the root is x, it would be like negative 2 plus or minus 5.
Exactly right, yep. Or you could write them as two separate ones like we've done here. It's also perfectly fine. Chances are if you're taking a standardized test, the options would be the exact answers. But if you're using your quadratic program on a standardized test, you could always type in the answers and see which answer matched the output on your program too. You know what I mean? So it wouldn't be hard to go, okay, there's my answer. It's not on the list, but these all have square root symbols in it. Maybe it's just I have the right answer, just that I need the decimal approximation. You just type in the decimal approximation for the square roots on there, right? No big deal. Okay, everybody's good there? What we're going to do is the last thing for today is I have a solving practice here that I just want you to use your calculator program that we just made to do. So just going to really double check to make sure our program is working correctly. So we'll take, I don't know, 4 minutes or something to do this. We're just going to bang through using our quadratic program that we just made to solve these problems. Well, I'm going to time it, I guess, just for funsies. But, yeah, for funsies. You're welcome. But, you know, no pressure. It's not like it's homework. I'm not going to collect it or nothing. On your marks, get set, solve! Oh, no, I lied. There's just a couple seconds left. And pencils down. Just to kind of check to make sure that that went okay. Here's your timed practice answer. So just go ahead and check your own to make sure that they worked. Obviously, the order in which the two solutions appear does not matter.
Number 4, you round that, right?
Nope.
Oh wait. That's probably just a 1. Yeah, put 0.
0 is supposed to be the B.
Oh, I put 1.
That would do it.
Oh yeah.
Again, this is part of the reason why we're doing the practice, right? Just to get used to figuring out all the little oopsies about what could happen doing the formula. Make sure that we're not getting errors or anything as we're getting a variety of sorts of answers. Lucas.
I got 0.3 and negative 0.3 I. So I got an I in both numbers for number 4.
Did you put in C as positive 9 or negative 9? I'm guessing you put in positive 9.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Yep. No problem. All right. So that's it for today. Those of you at home, we're finished, so you guys can take off if you like. You can always stick around if you want to, but we're not doing anything else new today. There's no new assignments for the weekend. I gave you two of these puppies last time, so you still need to finish things up. That's the only things for homeworks 5 and 6 for this weekend. If you have the opportunity to do a little bit of factoring practice and you don't feel stellar about that skill already, I would take, try to find 5 or 10 or 15 minutes each of the days this weekend and just do a quick little timed factoring practice or 2 for yourself, just to help kind of get a little bit better about that skill. Okay? But nothing new for you guys to turn in aside from the homework that you already knew about already. Okie dokies. Okay. See you later. Well, I don't mean see you later, but you guys can hang out or whatever. We're done. Hi.
Maybe some probably